Hi, I'm Joe Danyi, and welcome to Youngstown Studio. On today's episode of Behind the Scenes, I sit down with Jane, the Director and Humane Officer for Animal Charity. Like many of you, I have a soft spot for animals. They are part of our families, but are completely dependent on us for their well-being. Not every pet owner lives up to the responsibility, making it necessary for people like Jane to advocate and enforce proper care and husbandry. These animals don't have a say in who they end up with, so it's up to us to protect and defend them. Behind the scenes today, I have Jane from Animal Charity of Ohio joining me. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Hey, everybody, what's going on? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate this.
So first thing we usually do is kind of give history of who you are, where you guys
Yep.
came from, and so let all our viewers get to know you.
Yeah, I'm Jane. I am the Operations Director at Animal Charity. We are the Humane Society for Mahoning County. We're about to hit our 60-year anniversary of service. 1963 we've been around, and our whole goal as our Humane Society is investigating crimes against companion animals.
And so the main function on the daily, you're doing investigations, you're doing enforcements.
Yeah, every day we come in and we are kind of going through the log that we have of reports of abuse, reports of neglect, and we are answering all of those calls by going to those addresses, investigating those crimes, those possibility alleged crimes, and really determining the need that is there to remove animals and press charges against the people that are doing those crimes. So it's a lot of spending all day kind of going into gross places, meeting some pretty rough people, and working through the extreme amount of animal abuse cases that we have right now. And, it's an all day, everyday event.
Some of the stuff that I've seen, even the short time that I've been around there, that if I looked at the condition of that animal every single day and it not be affected by how it's in pain or it's suffering or it's just being is it a lack of humanity, a lack of empathy? Like, are these mental illness that you're dealing with? It
depends on the type of crime that we're seeing. There are certain crimes that we see, like hoarding, for instance. Not just hoarding of animals, just living in a hoarded trash situation. That's a mental illness situation. Sometimes it's an elderly person that doesn't have any resources, that's been kind of left alone and abandoned themselves in these situations. And then the abuse aspect is crime. We see a lot of, if you're seeing on the news a murder or an arrest for a murder or heavy drug activity, a shooting, usually we're responding to those same scenes as well, because if they're arresting everybody in a drug house and they're also breeding puppies, and they arrest everybody, then we usually have to come and remove all of the animals, and that happens more frequently than people would think.
So now you're bringing these animals in. There has to be an output where you have to line families up, and so the second part of the mission would be to line up good adoption families.
Correct, and that has adoption is something that's the rewarding part of working in this animal welfare industry, but the problem is adoptions nationwide are struggling. That's where the overcrowding is. That's where a lot of organizations, including ours, are we're lacking right now. We're lacking of people coming and removing the animals from our shelter setting and putting them into homes. It's an ongoing battle that we're facing. The problem that it is happening is we're adopting out animals less frequently than we are bringing them in. So if we bring in a case of 40 animals that week, we are only adopting out one. So you can it's a game of chess, it's a game of Tetris within our four walls to make it fit, because we don't euthanize for space and we don't euthanize for time. So it's a balancing act, and that's kind of put us in this crisis and emergency situation that we're in right now, where we are throwing office furniture away. We are putting things in storage facilities because we are trying to create more room where there is essentially no room.
This episode was brought to you by Youngstown Computer, the Valley's technology company. We appreciate the loyalty you all have shown to us over the years, and it's our promise to serve all of the technology needs of the Valley. Call 330-259-7278. We have both home and business services available, everything from repair, installations, and new equipment. You can improve your Wi-Fi and have your technology serve you better. Call 330-259-7278, or you can schedule your appointment right now on youngstowncomputer.com and look for the red Book Now button.
We choose an animal within our organization or a case within our organization that the animal rescued endured something greater than imaginable. The case was harder than our humane agent had anticipated. And in this particular case, Annie, the surviving dog from this house, was actually our hero dog of the year for 2021 and 2020. We combined them two at our fur ball, and we awarded her an amazing honor that we do once a year. Her name is Annie. She's a golden retriever. But this was her abuse case. So you can buy shirts with her picture on it, and she's our ambassador. And
this is where Annie came from.
Yeah, and like I said, it is more of a graphic situation. Unfortunately, right now, as you're seeing in the video, they're searching for animal bodies. So they're searching for dead animals within this house.
I'm assuming the smell's probably overwhelming, and
correct.
They're trying to track down the death smell.
Yeah, you can almost hear the inability to use their nose, the gasping almost in their breath. But yeah, they're searching high and low. And when we're going into these houses, I would say a couple times a day that we go into houses like this. This is not something that's unusual for us to see. Not always are there animals. Sometimes they're already removed from these situations when we get into them. But the trash being filled to the ceiling, the amount of feces that are in these homes, these are all conditions that we work in every day.
So this is after you've already come across Annie, you're just continuing to look for other animals? Okay.
Because the original report came in that there were multiple dogs.
Okay.
So that's what they're looking for. They are looking for the bodies of the deceased. One living animal was Annie. One deceased body had already been found, which would have been her brother, and they are looking for the third. So they will search high and low throughout the entire property. Oftentimes these are dangerous situations. These houses that we go into, you have to think that we have fallen through ceilings. Actually, just recently, one of us fell through a ceiling. We have fallen through staircases. We have fallen through floorboards. These are not, it's not like you're walking into a home that was built in 2020 or these are homes. These are very old homes that are in very poor condition. And the reason that we have to clear them a lot of times is because they're being condemned. This was a report of animal abuse that was then tag teamed on with the city code enforcement officers who would then determine if this structure was even safe to stay standing or not.
What about these environments where maybe the dog was mistreated and they're hard to handle and they're a danger to the rescuer just as much as them?
We usually, this is one thing, I get told off quite a bit for being a little bit too, come here, Fluffy, when they're showing all their teeth at me. But we will use certain pieces of equipment like a snare or a muzzle, bite gloves, to be able to get those animals out of that situation and into the van. And then usually it's just they need some time to decompress.
Cool down a little bit.
Yeah. We give them as much time as they need, but it's rare that we have to call in somebody, an expert for behavior. Usually they just need time. And some animals bite. I mean, it is what it is.
The game.
So we change how we interact with those animals to make them feel as comfortable as possible. Not if you know how to read the the signs that the animal is giving you, they're usually telling you, hey, I'm not cool with this situation. Right. Back off, give me a minute, to where we can adjust for them. And this is the same once they're back in our facility. We can say, okay, this animal does not want everybody, in the world handling it, but we can put one person in charge of putting it on a leash and taking it out to go to the bathroom, and it's fine. And we just manage. This right here on the screen, you can see it was a small bathroom filled with feces, but that is where, one specific animal would have been living, and they're still just searching. I mean, it can sometimes take us a whole day to clear a home, and then sometimes it could take us a week. Being in a home hoarded is not unusual for us to spend a weekend to clear animals from it. This one was a very quick one because it was dogs. But if it's a cat house, that's exactly what they can look like. And there'll be 100 cats, and you have to go through every bag, every box, and every piece of furniture and remove cat's hide. So it can take a while.
Cats don't want to be found. They are pretty good at not being found.
Correct. And there have been certain cases where we just get we use masks, we use respirators, we use hazmat suits, things like that, which we really never did before, up until a couple of these houses got so bad. We would just use the N95 masks. But it became to be a point where we needed to kind of step it up and use these actual like plastic respirators with the filters and things like that. But we were ending up in the hospital quite a bit for labored breathing. We've had the firefighters come in and assist us by moving some furniture for us when the houses are so full of trash. And in those situations, unfortunately, like, the firemen aren't trained to work with animals, so they would get bit by a cat and have to go and get hospital care. There's been a lot of times where we are just putting ourselves in these situations to save the animals, and we know, okay, we might get bit by a cat, we might get scratched, we might fall through a floorboard or a ceiling, and we just gotta be ready for it. We just have to stay on our A game. We get very focused. The adrenaline really helps. Right. But we get really focused.
Now, with the interest in exotics, are you running into some of those more exotic cats and a little bit more dangerous types of species?
Yeah. We the amount of animals that we're bringing in and the different types of animals that we're bringing in, obviously we're not just dogs and cats. So right now we have a parrot, we have a leopard gecko, we have a bunny, we just had ferrets. We get all sorts of companion animals. The dangerous aspect of the dangerous types of animals, there are reports of illegal animals that we refer to our friends at Department of Ag and Department of Natural Resources for, guidance on. But for the most part, we will check those. If it's being treated as a companion animal, we will still be the first response. But yes, there are alligators, unfortunately, right now that are known to frequent the south side of Youngstown. It's one of those things where we have to use caution and be smart, and also call in professionals for those specific types of animals should we need them.
Is this the same household that we're seeing here now?
No, this is a different case. This was this case, the audio in it is what is incredible. This shows you, the first house that we showed was kind of dealing with the internal aspects of a hoard, the breathing problems that we face. This is more of a dealing with somebody who is unsafe because of the potential of and risk of the threats that they're giving. So they're
not yielding to you at all.
No, they're looking for an altercation. They're looking for a fight, and they're really pushing for that to happen. This is one of those cases where, unfortunately, this animal was removed this day because of the condition that the animal was in. His name is Patches. But the man did not show up for court. And so there's a warrant out for him should he ever go and be pulled over or anything like that. He would be facing that bench warrant, but a lot of times we are having to ask for backup from the deputies at the dog warden and from the community police.
I think this one was labeled the cat.
Yeah, I know. It's one glance and I know. This was 2020, the hottest point of the summer, and the initial call came in that there was 1,000 rats on the outside of the property.
1,000 rats.
1,000 rats. And the woman was adamant to the health department or the city services that had stopped there, who weren't allowed in the property. But speaking to her, she was very adamant that there was only 12 cats on the inside of this house. So we got that report. Hey, we are going to convene at 8 a.m. Friday or Thursday, whatever the day was, at this specific address. We know there are cats, but there are 1,000 rats on the outside. The health department will be there, city code enforcement, adult protective services. We're all going to be there together to try and help these people. So I was told, hey, Jane, we might be getting 12 cats. And I said, all right, I could do this. 12 cats. So I set up cages, I set up enclosures, and I was like, 12, it could be from 12, that could vary a little bit.
In there. Yeah.
Right. So I set up for 20. And I felt pretty good. I was like, I got this. 20 cats, like that's pushing it a little bit for our facility, but like we can do it. And then, it took us hours of sitting outside this house for her to finally allow our humane agent, adult protective services, and code enforcement to go into the property. They did ultimately have to bring her and to the hospital, but after really assessing the situation, there was probably 40 cats in the very first room that they walked in. And so I was told, set up every single cage that we have or that you can get your hands on. Now, this was one of those hoarding situations that did take us multiple days. We did end up having to go to the hospital after, including firemen for being bit. But this is one of those situations that will go down in the record books as we refer to it all the time, but this will go down in the record books for animal charity. There was 107 animals removed, and that ultimately turned into about 114 after some births. But
and it's not a big house.
No, it's a tiny house. It's kind of like shotgun style. So you walk in and it's just like one small, tiny little living room, a little kitchen, stairs to the upstairs. But if you can think, every cabinet that you opened, every cushion that you removed, there was like 10 cats. And we at one point thought we were done. I said, it was probably about 7. We were at probably 70 cats. I pull a couch back and 30 cats lined it, and all you saw was eyes. There's a picture of that moment happening. There was urine just dripping from the ceilings, and this changed the course of animal charity, this house.
Wow. This episode was brought to you by Youngstown Computer, the Valley's technology company. We appreciate the loyalty you all have shown to us over the years, and it's our promise to serve all of the technology needs of the Valley. Call 330-259-7278. We have both home and business services available, everything from repair, installations, and new equipment. You can improve your Wi-Fi and have your technology serve you better. Call 330-259-7278, or you can schedule your appointment right now on youngstowncomputer.com and look for the red Book Now button.
We still have cats from this house at our facility. It's been 2.5 years since we did this case, and we have 2 cats left from this house, Zen and Jasper, that basically they want a home. Both of them have a girlfriend in the cat room, and they both want to live in a home with their girlfriend and never be touched.
I do not blame them at all. Is that the couch you were talking about?
Yeah, we started having to flip things over once we realized how they were actually stuffed with cats. A lot of the cats that we, save, they were from this house, like, never been touched before. A lot of hoarding houses, you get a lot of unsocialized cats. So it takes them a lot more time usually, but.
And I imagine if you get so many in one area that they fight with one another and cause damage to each other too.
Oh, absolutely. When they're that low on resources of food and water, it's a lot of fight for survival, and that goes with dogs as well. When we're rescuing dogs in large numbers and they're all underweight, you can see that there are wounds on them that wouldn't necessarily be for them fighting purposefully, but fighting to survive. For this specific house, there was only 7 that tested positive for FIV, and so they were easily quarantined until we could get them into a transfer facility that took FIV positive cats. Flea and tick treatment, all of our animals in our building are constantly being treated for that and up to date for that. So that wasn't, a huge concern for us. But when you're dealing with, and this is the problem that we're having now, when you're dealing with an overcrowded shelter and you're bringing in an entire horde of animals, there is not a great place to quarantine.
Quarantine 100? No, I couldn't imagine.
So we were, having to move all of our animals that were healthy and ready for adoption out and into other facilities for this case. So that way they can be adopted out quicker. And we were only left with cats from this case. I think we only had under a dozen of our own cats that were not from this case in the building. Our facility can only hold in isolation cages maybe 40. We have to make a lot of quick calls on certain cases. It's very obvious if an animal's shot or has, a gaping wound that you can see, it's an emergency. But for myself, I'm triaging as I'm pulling them out, and now I'll be able to prioritize on scene and say, hey, these 5 animals need to go straight to the clinic. They're likely going to need to go to the hospital or they're not going to make it. So that's usually what my role is. Besides just, we call it cat wrestling or cat wrangling, is determining who is medically, the most at risk that needs treatment immediately.
Assisting humane with seizing a dog.
Stop. Pat! You have to understand. Now! Pat! Sir. Sir? In the house.
No, sir.
Sir!
No, sir. Don't hit this dog.
In my house.
Sir, do
Step
not
away
hit
from
this
the dog.
dog.
I ain't never hit my dog.
I am a deputy. Step away from me and the dog.
Get off of my dog.
I am just making sure the dog stays safe.
That dog will be
I
safe.
just saw you raise your hand to the dog. Please step back from the dog.
Put my dog back in my house.
Please step back.
Put my dog in my house.
Please step back.
You don't understand?
I do understand.
You don't understand.
I do understand.
Do you?
I do.
Then let my dog go.
No.
Sir.
No,
Let
sir.
my dog go.
I
No,
cannot
sir.
leave this dog here.
This dog
this
has
condition.
to be seen by a veterinarian. If this dog's condition gets any worse and it gets into the blood, this dog can die. Would
is
you
healing.
want to be responsible
The
for the
dog
death
is
of this
healing.
dog? Did you see his eyes? He has an infection in both
You
eyes.
should have seen it before this.
I understand that, but obviously the medicine that you are giving him is minimally helping him.
They're not yielding to you at all.
No, they're looking for an altercation. They're looking
sure.
for a fight, and they're really pushing for that to happen. This is one of those cases where, unfortunately, this animal was removed this day because of the condition that the animal was in. His name is Patches. But the man did not show up for court. And so there's a warrant out for him should he ever go and be pulled over or anything like that. He would be facing that bench warrant. But a lot of times we are having to ask for backup from the deputies at the dog warden and from community police. So in this situation, Jess had to have backup from one of the deputies from the dog warden until the police could arrive and she could safely remove the animal. We don't go in willy-nilly and just deal with people that are being that aggressive.
So let's talk to the viewers now, and if there's somebody out there watching all of this and they want to help in some way, they want to be a volunteer, they've got, a building that they'd love you guys to be able to utilize when you need, or they want to contribute to that, the outreach for helping people with medications and foods. Give us your needs. Like, what's your biggest void that people could help with?
Right now it's monetary donations. Monetary donations are what we are utilizing when we are in need of emergency medical care for the animals, when we're needing equipment for certain types of animals that we're rescuing, to pay for the basic shots and flea and tick prevention and antibiotics and things like that for our humane animals. Those monetary donations are going towards those things. And right now we're also trying to save up so we can get into that larger facility quickly so we can bring more animals in. We are also asking, obviously, all the time for dry adult dog food. We are always asking for canned kitten food. Those are things that are on our wish list all the time. We're also always in need of blankets, especially right now going into the winter months. We usually have a stockpile. We do not have a stockpile of blankets right now because we have so many animals. So blankets and peanut butter right now are our top two needs that we're asking for help with, which are on our wish list, but any brand is fine. Blankets can be used. So blankets and peanut butter, monetary donations, dry dog food, kitten food.
All right, if I want to make a financial donation, where would I go?
You can email acoofohio@gmail.com. You can just go to our website, and there's a link where you can donate via PayPal, but all of our contact information is on there. Sending an email, we're all on the same email, so there's 10 of us monitoring every single email. You can also call and leave us a message, and somebody will get back to you. And we just ask if, we're asking for heroes. We're asking for people that can, join us in the fight against this terrible epidemic of abuse that's in our area that we're seeing. And we need people to support what we're doing so we can go out there and fight the fight and get them safe.